All right. Well, I want to welcome everyone to the Free Friday coaching call. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, we're excited to have you here. For one of the 900 plus people that request and get this on the recording and an email that gets sent out afterwards, hello to you as well. As everybody joins today, I'm going to invite anybody who's willing to come on camera so we can have a great interactive session. And if you don't already have something with you, grab something to write with and something to write on. For those of you that are joining the call for the first time, the history of this call is pretty cool, actually. My late husband, Rick Jiha, was an incredible leader in the real estate industry, and for 43 years, he poured into other people and helping them be successful, which is why we called him the Freedom Pathfinder. And he spoke on stages all over the world. And anytime he would do that, he would always give out his cell phone number and he would say, "Call me." How do I know that's true? Because he had over 36,000 contacts in his phone at the time that he passed. And so people would call him. And that became a capacity issue. So he started this call as a way to have a one-to-many conversation with all of his friends in real estate for people that were truly committed to improving their mindset and their skill set. And so, although he passed at the end of 2023, we're continuing the legacy that he started and have grown and built on that by continuing to bring the best of the best in the industry to help you that are committed to improving your mindset and your skill set. And what we've seen and know is that skill sets are transferable. So everything that you're going to learn here today or that you learn in these calls, you can use in your business life and you can also use them in your personal life. And I am really excited for today's guest. We're going to have a fun conversation. I want to get you all mentally prepared to be engaging during the conversation because the value that you'll get walking out of today over the course of the next hour will greatly hinge on how willing you are to participate. So turn those cameras on, get ready to have a fun conversation. This particular man, my life was forever changed when I met him. He's somebody that I've known for close to 20
Mine
years.
too. You're
uh,
going to get me first thing, aren't you?
I'm gonna get
You're
you.
going to have me blubbering first thing.
I am.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Yes, it has been almost exactly 20 years ago when we first met, and I was brand new at that point in time and had a voracious appetite to become better. I wanted a better life. I wanted a better business. I wanted everything in my life to go to the next level. And he's somebody that's been not only a mentor on that path, because he was a facilitator where I was investing my time and energies to learn the skills and tools to do that. And we became friends as a result of that. I greatly respect and admire him. One of the things that I love most about him is that he will not risk being less than 100% completely honest for the sake of being liked. I'm going to say that again. He will not risk being less than 100% completely honest for the sake of being liked. And in my experience, there's not a lot of people that will tell you what is because they care about you at that level and step outside of themselves to really serve in that way. So I'm excited to have him on the call today. Since 1994, had started in mastering his craft. He works in business and on the personal side in communication, relationships. He develops keynotes, spent years facilitating transformational work and seminars, and today focuses in really taking that all to the next level. He works a lot in relationships and communication. And so this is the heart of life. And what we do is build
Mm.
relationships and communicate. And the level that we're able to be effective at that, little things or big things in our lives called results will follow. So, Jeff Rogers, welcome to the call.
Thank you very much. That's a big piece to follow. And one of the things I'll call it a crown jewel, okay, of mine was not only working with you because actually you helped me start when I left the big seminar company, you helped me start my first company. Okay, you helped me start Brainstorm. Remember those trips to Princeton and Bang Bang Shrimp? And there's a story there. I got the privilege of facilitating Rick Jiha, who was Rick to me was just a gentleman amongst gentlemen. He was amazing, a master of relationships. And by the way, anybody that wants to call me can have my phone number. I'll give my phone number out as well if you need some support. I love that idea. I love to work with people in that way. You know me, I love to be face to face and one on one. That's really my favorite place to operate from. I think we get so much essence from people when we're in that space, you know. And hear me, this is great. I love connecting with people on Zoom, and I can see well, I can see some of you. I can't see all of you, but it's so intimate when you're with people, and Rick was a master of that. So excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, let's for everyone that's on the call, I'm looking at there's several people that I'm seeing their names for the first time, which is exciting, and some that I'm seeing for multiple times. Hi, Mallory, how you doing? Last time I saw you was in Miami last year. And so there's people that are brand new in their real estate journey, people that are very seasoned in their real estate journey, and based on the fact that we have some new people here, they may not even be in real estate based on the promotion that I did on my stories on Facebook this morning. And so I'm not sure what everyone's looking to take away from this call today, and I'm sure you'll help people get clear on that. However, what I'd like to start with, and we do this quite often, is what led you to what you're doing today, and what's that journey been? And based on that, what would you say that the greatest gift is that you have and that you're living in right now? And then we'll jump into
Mm.
content for today.
So you're gonna get me right off the bat. You love to do this to me. So you want the story, like how the beginning to
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh
just
my gosh.
well, I mean,
Okay.
everybody I'm the only one on this call that really knows you intimately. And so this is what happens when we see people, like whether we're aware of it or not, it's always like, well, who is this guy and why should I listen to
Right,
him? Just
right.
because Casey said he's great? No, we want to know your story. They want to know your
Okay,
story. And
all
then we'll
right.
jump into the content.
By the way, I do want everyone to know that I work with real estate agents all the time. I'm intimately familiar with EXP because my wife is one. She is not practicing right now. She's actually doing some other stuff, and she helps me, of course. But I'm intimately connected with EXP. I actually have EXP stock. It's not worth much right now, but hey, it's still there. You know, I still got it. So, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go. Wow, I'm gonna go way back. I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada for 53 years. I now live in North Idaho, so I live about 90 miles south of the Canadian border. Um, I live out in the sticks in the country. This was my dream. This has been my dream for like 18 years. And 5 years ago, my wife and I created it. Okay. This has always been our dream to have property and live out in the woods. And that's what we do. I got up this morning and blew snow off the driveway, Casey. You'd be glad you weren't here. You'd be freezing. Anyways,
No, I would be
well,
inside drinking coffee with your wife while you blew the snow out of the driveway if I was there.
I don't know.
I
Blowing
know better
snow
than
is
to do that.
pretty therapeutic. If you have the equipment I have, it's kind of cool, actually. It's like playing tractors. Okay.
All
It's really
right.
awesome. Anyways, okay. So I'm going to take you back. Oh my gosh, this is a long time ago. So I've been doing this for over 30 years. I'm going to go back to the back to the back. I was working at a rock and roll radio station in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was a sales guy. And it's kind of where really starting with relationships and stuff. I wasn't very good at them, just so you know. I really didn't trust people. Had a lot of anger, a lot of rage in my life. I was a partier, but I worked for this rock and roll radio station, and it was just a blast to do. But you know, like our bosses used to throw us out of the office at 9 o'clock in the morning, and if you came back before 4 o'clock, you'd better have a pretty good reason because they knew that number one, the money wasn't sitting in the office; it was out on the street. That's where the money was, and if you were one of the first people to get the money, you were in business. That's what you wanted to do. And they were really big on relationships. So they knew that intimacy was created face to face. So they didn't want us in the office on the phone. You had to get out. So my office was my car. That's how I did pretty much everything. So I met this girl. She was a client of mine. Okay. And her father-in-law owned the largest swimming pool company in the state of Nevada, or her father did. And she worked for him and she was in charge of all the advertising and I'd never met her. Anyways, long story short, I started dating her. I really dug her. I really, she's this smoking hot redhead. She was like it. And I'd never dated anyone like her before. She was like, I was here and she was here. And I'm like trying to figure out why this girl is dating me, right? So one day she comes to me and she says, look, I really like you. In fact, I think I'm actually in love with you, but you're a mess. And if you don't do something about this, I can't do this with you. Like we're done. Okay. So I'm like, oh my gosh, what's this mean? So I really dig her. I really like her. I really, I'm interested. I want to, okay. So I reluctantly, she puts me in this class, this seminar. And I reluctantly go to this thing, arms crossed, pissed off, not really in the mood. But I did it because I wanted to continue to date her. And Within about 30 minutes of sitting in that room, I realized I got what I call a proverbial bat upside the head. I realized that I had a lot of work to do on myself. I ended up doing all the classes that that company had to offer. It's a company called PSI. And about 2 years later was offered the opportunity to become a facilitator for them. And that's how I started facilitating classes. So I would travel around the United States, Canada, Mexico, all over the world, kind of doing seminars and introducing people to the idea of personal growth work and, what do you really want to create in your life? And, what do we got to get out of the way, which of course is you, but what about you do we got to get out of the way and do this? Now, I will say this, I'm really glad that I went to those classes because not only did it change my life, but I'm still married to that girl 32 years later. So we have three amazing kids together. They are amazing people because of the work that we did. I think that that had a lot to do with that. I have amazing grandchildren. I have three of them, and it's not for human consumption, but I'll let everyone here know is I got another one on the way. So I'm going up to four now. So my daughter, who had a baby, literally, she's not even a year old, is pregnant again. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is fast. But I mean, I went from having one for 10 years to now I've got four. I'll have four in September. So they are the love of my life. They absolutely own me. Going through that, we ended up getting married, and that brought on its own challenges. Of course, I don't know anyone here that's married, and even if you're a relationship coach, I just want you to know it's not always two people running together in a field of flowers. We went through life's challenges. We had a lot of fun when we were young. We did a lot of partying. We went to a lot of concerts. We did a lot of stuff. We traveled. We did all kinds of things. We had kids pretty much right away. She got pregnant on her honeymoon. So I had a kid before we started. So we had kids in the mix. We were, having a great time. World had us, we had the world by the tail, or at least that's what we thought we had. The truth was we didn't, but we sure acted like we did. It was like we were just kind of going through the motions. I was traveling, working. She was working at home. There was just, the normal chaos was going on. I left the radio station. I, by the way, kept and maintained, left the radio station prior to going to work for the seminar company and started my own ad agency. So I was in the marketing and advertising business, strategic branding, that type of stuff. So we owned our own company. That was another journey and another thing of, learning how to create relationships and do things different. I still wasn't good at that. Um, and I'll fast forward is that, through all of that, at about year 16 of our marriage, we hit, Tina had developed thyroid cancer. I went through that with her. It devastated me. It was one of the really rough parts because I anyone who knows me know I adore my wife. And even when we had hard times, I adore her. Um, but this was one I couldn't take away. This was one I couldn't do. She had to do this, and it was devastating. Um, it sent me into a spin, and at that time of my life, when I went into spins, my way of dealing with that was to push people away, was to keep people at a distance. Um, and so I couldn't get hurt. And part of the wreckage of that, we went through the crash in 2008. We lost everything, went bankrupt, and I woke up one morning with a set of divorce papers in my hand and a list of stuff I wanted from the house in the other. And I was like, um, wow. So one night I'm laying late awake in bed, and my wife can sleep like the dead no matter what's going on. I'm awake. The committee meetings going on in my head, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking at her like I just wanted to punch her in the face. To be perfectly honest with you, I just was like, "How dare you sleep while I'm in misery?" Like who are you? And so I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm miserable, but I don't want to be divorced. It's the last thing I wanted. And we had been through all the counselors and done all that stuff. And I was never able to create value in that place. I know there's probably great counselors out there. There's great people in that. But for me, I was never able to create value. People were telling us you need to communicate, but they never told us how to communicate. You need more intimacy, but never told us how to create that intimacy. You guys need to get on the same page, but no one ever told us how to get on the same page. So it was all these great ideas, if you will. They never really knew us. They never really dug in. I just never felt a connection in that environment that worked. Here's your hour. Oh, time's up. Oh, you didn't get everything out. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Go home and work on it. Let me know how things go. And, we might have felt better for a little while or whatever. But I'm laying there in bed that night, and I remember the language that went through my head is I just want to be heard. I don't know if you can relate to that, that people just really want to be heard. And I didn't care if she understood. I didn't care if she got it. I didn't care if she agreed with it. I didn't care if she bought into it. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to feel like I got a sentence out of my mouth. And then this thought went through my head is that I'm helping all of these people create all of these great results in their life. And you think I could figure this out. And that's when I started developing the tools and techniques to help people in relationships, intimate relationships. And then I realized that those same tools and techniques could be used in business. Okay. And so I started using them in my business and things just started to boom. And the more connected I got to people, the more I cared about people, actually stopped and listened to people. And not from a place of I agree with you or I disagree with you or I'm right or you're right or any of that stuff, but literally from a place of what is my goal for the communication that I'm having right now? What are the spaces that I'm creating? How are they receiving the spaces? In other words, what are the filters they're listening through? Really paying attention to my feedback from people and creating environments where people felt safe to communicate with me changed my entire life. Okay. What I also realized in that is that I could also pay attention to what my feedback was and how I was actually receiving information. And so it really changed the way. And so, like, if someone said something crappy, I could go, well, wait a minute. Is that kind of the space they created? Probably not the best space. I'll give them that. But what's with me? What's with my reaction? Like, what's going on in my mind for me? And so, what I realized is that in the process of creating all of this, especially around communication, I created an opportunity for people to communicate in a way where both people could be accountable in the communication. And it changed our marriage. It completely changed everything. I started working with her on getting rid of the scorecards. Anyone relate to like being in competition in your relationships? Okay, it's like we got into that, and I started realizing that there were places where I was in competition with my clients, and realized that wait a minute, hey, I'm not the hero here. My client's the hero here. And if I can make my client the hero, if they understand they're the ones that matter, they're the ones that create the result, they're the ones that do all the really cool stuff. I'm just kind of the guy creating the spaces around them. It inspired them to grow. And when they did that, now people give me a lot of credit. Like, oh, I'm sure a lot of people, give Casey a lot of credit. I know for a fact people give Rick a lot of credit. Rick, you changed my life. No, Rick did not change your life. Rick was a catalyst. Rick created spaces. He was really good at that. Rick was a master of looking at behavior and adjusting himself to what other people were doing. But he is not the one that was creating your results. Okay. And that became so empowering. But people started to realize that when I started to communicate from that place, people started to grow and my business just took off. And I don't know, it was about, I don't know, 6 years ago, someone asked me, because I was doing the Tony Robbins thing. I got the answer for everything. If you want to be successful in your business, here, I can help you there. If you want to be successful in your relationship, here, I can help you here. If you want to be better with yourself, here, I can help you here. I was kind of doing, the be everything to everyone thing. And someone asked me, what do you really love to do? And I said, I love to work with people in relationships. And they said, personal or professional? And I said, both. So now I work with people on healing their marriages. I work with people on having more intimate relationships with themselves so they can be more productive in their business. I work with couplepreneurs, is what we call them, people that work together in business. Tina and I did that for a long time. We almost tore each other's eyes out at times, but we made it through that and figured out the ways to do that as well and how to create boundaries, and those things. So here I am today supporting people, and it's whether, it doesn't, I help people that are single that want to, find relationship and get into relationship, all the way to business people who want to get out of that transactional type business, because quite honestly, with all the technology and everything we got that was designed to give us more time, you realize a cell phone was designed. I remember when the fax machine came out. By the way, I'm dating myself here, but I remember when the fax machine came out. Okay. We used to have to drive across town to do that and then drive back. Okay. Now we could just and send them something. It was awesome. Okay. What did we use that for? We used it to cram more stuff in. What was it really designed for? It was designed to free us up. But what we've done now is we've learned how to use technology, and as we get closer to technology, we dive into our phone. Oh, let me say, I love this one on people's voicemails. If you want a quicker response, text me. In other words, I'm too busy for you to even pick up a phone and have a conversation with you. So why don't you just make this easy for me and send me a text message? Do you hear that? Like, I don't want to talk to you, so just text me. Why don't you just say that? Like, you're annoying as hell and I can't stand you, so just text me, please.
It's so
True.
good. It's well, I might have that on my outgoing voicemail.
Oh, you might want to look at that.
Yeah, just called out, busted in front of
Uh,
everyone.
I'm
So,
sorry about that.
well, clearly you
Not
have a
really. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry, not, I know. Clearly, you have a life devoted to mastering the craft, and I
Mm,
think that it's so cool that you're transparent to be able to say, "Hey, when the outside world thought I had it all figured out because of what I did professionally and how I showed up there and how they
no.
experienced me, yet behind the scenes things were a disaster." Is that I
Yes.
believe there's a lot of people walking around like that in one way, shape, or form. We're spiritually bankrupt, we're emotionally bankrupt, we're financially bankrupt, we're relationally bankrupt. I mean, so many of us just because of life or lack of skills or tools, and a host of other things, choices that were effective, choices that were ineffective, and
Hmm.
the results of all those. So for this group of people in real estate, the truth is everybody is in a transactional business. And that I remember distinctly on my personal development journey, Gary, who we fondly refer to as Yoda Perez,
Hmm.
he said to me
Hmm.
one thing that was so important. He said, Casey, this is March of 2006. He said, Casey, when you master relationships, you'll do as much business as you want. I'm like, I don't have time for relationships. I need to transact, Gary, and I need to take the number of transactions I'm doing and be able to do more and more of those. And like, do you want to buy a house? Do you want to sell a house? Do you know someone that wants to do that? I can help you. Otherwise, I don't have the time to talk to you. I got to go get my next deal.
Right.
And he just stood there and he shook his head and he said, I'm going to say it again. When you actually master relationships, you'll have more business than you can handle. So let's pivot into that because everybody here is in the industry of real estate and I mean, is in situations where someone walks in an open house and they're meeting them for the first time. And what is the experience they're creating or the skills they have or don't have to impact what happens on the other side of that? Some people are working leads they've been passed on. Some people have been referred and have got to create a relationship out of nothing. Other people are in transactions with real estate agents that are maybe challenging to communicate with. Other people are managing client breakdowns because real estate people lose their ever loving minds. And now you've got, oh, well, if you've got a husband and wife or two partners in a real estate deal, well, that makes it a lot of fun. I mean, there's so much going on. And in the
Hmm.
absence or in a gap of skills around communication, um, there that will be demonstrated in the results. So, where do you want to start on how we make this the applicable, like real day use?
Okay, so let's give some. First thing I want to tell people is that I in no way, like I said, have my life 100% wired. It's, there's always something going on. In relationships, I have clients that are highly successful and I have some that are not. And sometimes that's, I'm very a big accountable person, and that what that means to me is that we're all making choices. It's not about who's wrong or who's bad or anything like that, but the question is are the choices I'm making supporting what I want or are they not? What I'm talking to you about today is practical application. Okay, I am not a rocket scientist. What makes me successful at relationships is I've been creating them for a very long time. What makes me successful as a relationship coach is that I've been married for 32 years in business with my wife. So I can tell you how to navigate those dynamics. I've been in sales since I was 11 years old. Okay. I used to sell newspaper subscriptions, if you can believe that. I was good at it too. Um, so it's a lot of this is experience. And then of course, a lot of this is just mindset training, stuff that I've been doing for the last 30 years and helping people get out of their own way. So I would say if we're going to start, so we want to start on, of course, we want to talk about building more relational business. Now, do I understand that I understand that real estate is a transactional business? I do. Okay. But, let's just start with people, you mentioned people you're on the other side of transactions with. If we could have better relationships with those people, would it make your deals go a lot smoother? Of course it would. But most people don't realize, okay, that they're in the same transaction with you. And so those people that are making those transactions difficult are making their life difficult. So what I know is that the first thing is that I learned about relationships is the quickest way to get what I want is to help other people get what they want. Okay. And the first part of that to me, and that didn't necessarily mean, oh, here's your commission. Okay. What that meant is that whether it's communication, it's behavior, pretty much everyone shows up with an agenda. Okay, so let's start with the idea that we don't do anything unless we have a reason to do it. In other words, if there's no value in what we're doing, we don't do it. Now, people like, so I mean, like, even if you help an old, let's say you help an old lady across the street, what's the payoff? Get to feel better about ourselves. Okay, maybe we have a sense of well-being. We did a good gesture, we did a good deed. There's a payoff for that. Okay, so I would say the first level of communication that when I walk into is I start the communication with, of course, introducing myself, and you do the cordialities. However, it's starting to understand what it is I'm talking to. Okay, so everyone has kind of a behavior style, if you will, that they operate from. And so if I can understand what the behavior style is very quickly, okay, and I've gotten really good at that, is understanding what makes people tick and what their quote unquote motivation is, I can start to move in those directions. So I can communicate from that place, I can behave from that place. I can shorten the conversation, lengthen the conversation, make the conversation more humble or more fun, depending on how people operate. All right. So one thing that's cool is that we got a giveaway today, and you're gonna give the. I think Selena. Did you get the link? Okay, good. We got the link. Okay, we're gonna send that out today. But we also, it's we got a QR code. I think we're gonna use. Is that true, Casey? Did you get it? I think I realized I sent it to you twice because I'm terrible with tech. I'm just terrible with technology. Really, I am. But I'm getting better. I do my best. Okay. So how do we quickly understand people? I think is the first step. All right. How do we do that? Now, there's all kinds of behavioral studies. Is anyone here familiar with disc profile? You can just thumbs up or thumbs down if you want. Okay. I like to interact with people just so you know. So I would love you can turn your mic on if you want to interact with this. I don't care. It's, there's another one I think I like better than disc is Enneagram. Okay. Enneagram's pretty cool. I don't know if anyone's ever done your Enneagram. There's all kinds of different profiles out there. And I think they're great. If I had an office full of employees all the time, or, sometimes I do it with my clients, is I want to, know more about them. I'll have them go do an Enneagram and we'll get a deeper dive. And just so you know, at this point, rarely am I surprised about what comes up on an Enneagram. When you get used to this stuff and you work with the basics, the rest of this stuff kind of flows from that. But what's the biggest challenge is that, when you're sitting across and you're doing a listing presentation or you're meeting a new agent for the first time or you're at that open house and you really just don't have that, you can't just go like, hey, would you fill out this Enneagram for me? Would you open up your phone and do this for me so I can get what makes you tick? You can't do that. Okay. You've got to have some better skills. So I like to work with just a basic 4 quadrant process. Okay. So does it consider everything that we do? Does it tell you your favorite flavor of ice cream? No, it does not. But what it does give is it gives us the gist of things. Okay. So for me, I am more, and maybe you've heard it this way. There's people who call, different animals. They call them colors. They call them, the type A, type B, type C, that type of stuff. I use a really simple system. All right. So I use a system where it's a formal dominant or a controller. Okay. Would be what we call one type of behavior. We have another one we call analytical. Okay. Would be more formal flows with. We have, formal easygoing, which would be those fun people, the people who are always late, never on time, and drive like 80, 100 miles an hour. And God help you if you open their glove box because stuff's going to come flying out at you, those type of people, like half their wardrobes in the trunk of their car. You get the idea. And then, of course, we have what we call supporters. Those are my favorite people because it is my hardest behavior to emulate. And I call them puppy lovers. Okay, so puppy lovers are amazing people. They are the most supportive, genuine people you ever find on the planet. Um, and so when we can operate and quickly identify those people, how people operate or which quadrant they go into, we can adjust our communication to be more effective. So that for me is really my first step is what, not so much who am I talking to, but what behavior am I talking to? So what's the unconscious way that people are showing up to the table that I can instantly get a hold of and move into? So the cool part is the guide I give you not only spells out here's what makes these people tick. Here's what you're looking at, all right? But it's going to get like even boiled it down to keywords. So when you're drafting emails or text messages to people, you can put in certain words that hit for them. Okay, so that when you're talking to them, you're much more effective because they're like, oh, okay. So like, I don't know if I'm a little bit fun sometimes. I'm like Case and I could get into trouble. Okay. We're pretty good at getting into trouble. At the same time, I'm pretty driven. All right. I like to be in control of the conversation. I'm a really kind of bottom line type of person. All right. I don't need all those details. Just cut to the chase. If you were showing me a house, I would step into the house and say, no, this is not it. The only reason I would let you drive to show me a house is because I'd want to see what your car looks like. I want to see how you keep your car. I want to see, how you drive. I want to kind of like, I want to talk to you because I want to spend more time kind of doing that, kind of feel you out. That's the only reason I would have you drive. Otherwise, I'd follow you. All right. If you opened the door and like followed me around and pointed everything out, I'd go, yeah, yeah, I got it. You don't need to do that. Okay, like I can make that choice on my own. So I tend to be that. At the same time, I tend to be fun. So I'd probably mess with you the whole time we were going through the house. And if there was like stuff on the carpet or stuff like that, we'd probably have a laugh about that or some stuff that was going on in the house. We'd have fun with that. Now, my wife would be asking you about the RH factor of the insulation and how old the appliances are and every single little detail because she operates from more of an analytical place. All right. Now, somebody might be asking you where the schools are, like where the schools are. Are there kids in the neighborhood? Okay. How far is Trader Joe's? Stuff like that. So, more supportive, more intimate questions. So, for me, it's when I can understand the behavior first, then I can move into how to work better with them, but also what I need to deliver throughout the process.
Cool. So let's take it
Long
like,
answer.
yeah. So let's take it real world. I mean, you've got a split second. You're a real estate agent, you're working an open house, and you've got people walking into the house from off the street, sometimes multiple people at the same time. And so in a real world application, how do you quickly make those kind of assessments, decisions, and then pivot accordingly?
First thing I look at is how they're dressed, how their hair looks, what kind of clothes they're wearing. So like if they're wearing, like take a look at Casey's glasses. What would you say about Casey right now with her glasses? Okay, look at her house. What would you say about it? Everything's very well put together. It's classy. Okay. Okay, so people who are A type like things that are classy, but because it's kind of funky, you could also see that she's super creative. All right. So I would look at earrings. I would look at like if they had a whopping diamond on their hand, they're probably an A type. Okay. A supporter wouldn't have that. They would have something that's a little more subdued. All right. Yeah, I look at their appearance. This is the first place I go to.
Okay, so and then there's the subjective communication that's always happening underneath, right? Okay, so I'm in an
Of
open house
course.
and I've got people that are walking in. So if I've got somebody that's an A type that walks in that's put together that also looks like they might be a little fun,
Uh-huh.
how would I effectively interact with that person? Because in the context of an open house, I want to build relationship quickly. Ideally, I want their contact information so that we can
Hmm.
stay in communication on the other side of that. And that's a challenging thing to get from people. And so, how would you pivot or adjust your behavior or communication to be effective in that scenario?
Well, so like if so, we're kind of picking on A type a little bit here. We're picking on control type a little bit here. But with control type, you would just tell them if is there anything I can do for you, and if there's something you need, let me know. Okay, you don't force them to find to do sign in sheets. You don't typically hand them your handouts and stuff like that. They'll pick that stuff up if they want it. They're not at the same time. Power respects power. So they want to know that you know what you're doing. So if you're apprehensive with that person, you're going to lose their attention in a minute. So it's you want to drive the bus, but you want to know when to let them drive. Okay. In other words, and let go of the when to let go of the control and when to have the control. All right. So, like, one of the things my wife used to do that was brilliant when she'd do an open house, I thought it's probably not anything special, but I just thought it was brilliant, is before she would do her open houses, that she would look at all the houses within a 5 mile radius that were in the same price range of the one that she was looking at. And then she would ask, do you have a real estate agent? And if they said yes, either way they said it, she would hand them, she said, here's a list of all the houses in the 5 mile radius that have kind of the same idea as this house, the same price points, and the same kind of features of this house. And if you don't have a real estate agent, I'd love to show those to you. So she took control of it. I'd love to show those to you. But at the same time, she gave them the opportunity to say no, they didn't have it. And either way, she would give them the information.
Love that. So let's
Yeah.
say that somebody that's a different type walked through the door and just really didn't say anything other than hello and started walking around.
Okay, that would probably be an A type. Hello, and start walking around. Okay, so that would be, but someone like a support type. Let's go to the other side of the spectrum. Okay, so the other side of the spectrum would be a support type. They would walk in, they would tend to be more timid. They would say, "Oh, we're here, for the open house." They would tell you why they were there. You would ask them, really, would you like to sign in? Oh yeah, they're very amiable. Yeah, I'd do that. Here's a list of all the features of the house. Great. What are you looking for? Why did you come out here today? You would start a conversation with them, and they would love that, by the way. They want to be in conversation. They want to feel like they're needed with you. Okay, like you really want to be of service to them. You really care about them. So with them, you want to pour more into them. Can I show you around? All right, would you like to look around? Would you like to look on your own, or can I show you around? They want you to show them around. They want to hear about everything that's going on because it's completely relational. All right. Now, do they want to know about how old the appliances are and stuff like that? They might ask those questions, but those types of things are not necessarily important to them. The last time the windows were replaced, they're not going to ask you questions about the roof and stuff like that. That would be someone who's more of an analytical nature. Okay. And by the way, the analytical nature is going to take every single piece of information you have. They're going to take your business card. They're going to take your handouts. They're going to take they're going to sign in on your sign in sheet. They're going to give you their email. They're going to do the entire process. And they're probably going to ask for about 10 other pieces of information. If you ask them, would you like me to send you some more information about the property? Oh, yes. And here's the other thing, you better send it to them. Okay, because they're going to remember. And by the way, control, that's a formal thing. So that's kind of all the way across the top. That's a control type. That's also an analytical type. Whenever you say to those people, I'm going to do something, you better follow through. I don't care if it's, hey, I'm going to send you, you know what, I'm all out of my letter openers that I have. I'm all out of pens. I'm going to send you one. You better send it to them. Because if you don't, they never forget that. They'll remember you for the rest of your life.
And they'll think you're a terrible realtor as a
And
result.
they will think A, you have no follow through, B, you're a terrible realtor, and C, you don't do what you say you're going to do. So I don't really have time for you.
But if you did that with somebody that's like that supporter type or that's a promoter that's just a playful, gregarious, all over the map,
The promoter's going to forget you said it 5 minutes, 5 seconds after you said it. Okay, they're not going to hear, they're not going to care at all. They're going to be like, oh yeah, pen, who cares? Oh yeah. Now here's the other thing too. They're the ones that'll come in and take 5 of your pens. So you got your pen sitting out there. They're just going to come in. Oh, look at what I got. And then it's funny. You'll show up somewhere and there'll be someone in a restaurant using it because they forgot it there. They're all over the place. They're crazy. They're fun though. Yeah. I'll tell you the thing about a promoter is that you will think that you have the deal done. They will have you believe that their credit is amazing, everything's awesome. This is so cool. Let's go. I love this house. And then you start unfolding this stuff, and they come in, and the receipts are all wadded up, and they got stuff written on footballs. They're crazy. They're the ones that you really have to chase around to get them to, like, hey, did you call the lender to get pre-qualified? Uh, what was his name again? What was there? They're the ones you kind of have to babysit a little bit through the process. And that's kind of the informal side. Okay. So those are like, I would also say with support type people, you kind of have to be a little more engaged with those people because if you don't call them right away, they start thinking you don't like them. Okay, so you got to be, oh, and when you call, they're so excited that you called. They're like puppies. Okay, so they're like, oh my gosh, you called. Hi, how are you doing? How was your day today?
So true.
Miss,
So I
they
know
are
that
true.
everybody that's here is in probably some kind of situation right now where there might be a breakdown or a strain in the relationship. That could be with a client, it could be with the agent on the other end of a transaction, it could be something going on in your house. So, would love to give people that are on the call today an opportunity to bring a scenario, like a real life scenario that they're working to navigate through right now. And it's called Let's Play a Little Ping Pong with Jeff and see what you got.
Ooh, gonna put me on the spot.
I know, I'm gonna put whoever's gonna
Who's
put me
gonna
on
raise their hand and say, I got a problem?
the spot.
Who wants to do that? That's so
I
much
will.
fun.
I'll jump in here. Sorry, I'm not camera ready today. This is Betty Fernandez.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, I have enjoyed your your story today, and I have a referral to a client. She has worked as an executive for a nonprofit in Santa Barbara for many years, and she is one of those people that, in my opinion, is wants to be in control. She's in her 80s. She's lived in her house for 45 years. And when I first met with her over the phone, usually it's just, hello and let's set up an appointment to get together kind of a thing. Well, she
Hmm.
basically was interviewing me over the phone call. We spent about 30 minutes. And then she didn't want to set up an appointment with me. She said she was going to be getting referrals from multiple people and that she
Awesome.
was going to dissect multiple people, right? And then I get a phone call that she wanted to meet with me this week. So I met with her. And again, she told me it was just going to be a meet and greet. And frankly, I felt like my hands were tied, and it
Hmm.
caused me a lot of anxiety over the restriction that she gave me, because I didn't know if she was going to expect a listing presentation, even though she told me it was just going to be a meet and greet. So
Hmm.
that day, I decided I'm just going to give her a summary sheet of what differentiates me from other agents, what skills I bring to the table,
Hmm.
and a just a summary of a market report that I use called Altos. I don't know if you know what that is, but anyway,
Awesome.
so that's all I brought with me. And
Hmm.
I got there and I said, because of the fact that you said you wanted this to only be a meet and greet, I've allotted an hour for our time today. And um, I looked at her facial expression. At first, she seemed, in my opinion, I don't know her very well, but at first she seemed a little annoyed, but then her facial expression changed, and she thanked me for respecting that request. So then, throughout the hour that I was with her, she wanted to know more and more and more about my
Hmm.
approach to selling. And I said, well, why don't we schedule that for the formal listing presentation with your children, and we can cover all of that. So when I left, I feel like she liked me because I do
Hmm.
pre-listing inspections. Most agents don't do that here in my area. And because she's lived in her house for 45 years, it's dated. It's in good shape, but dated. And I sent her a handwritten card the very same day. I mailed her a card from down the street so she would get it either yesterday or today. And she's supposed to be setting up an appointment with me and her two children to have a
Okay.
formal listing appointment. Now, my concern is, oh, and something else that I noticed when I was with her is that she tried to have a negative spin on things instead of seeing it as a positive of getting
Hmm.
pre-listing inspections. She asked me something like, well, how would buyers not like that? And I'm like, well, I would think that they would like it because it bringing up the information up front before we go into a formal, escrow process.
Hmm.
And they're going to be allowed to do their own inspections. So it just provides them with more information. So that's what I said to her. And then when she got the Altos report on her zip code area, she again was like, well, that doesn't mean anything, so
Hmm.
she's going to be combative throughout the whole process. I'm
Okay, so you're dealing
concerned.
with a couple of things. So question is, what's your question?
So my question is, how would you navigate working with this lady in the best way with what I've just shared, and Um,
Okay, so just looking at her based on what we talked about, where would you put her? Would you say that she's a control type? Would you say
oh
she's
yeah,
analytical? Would you say that she's creative, or is she more supportive?
I'd say she's control for sure, control,
Okay.
and then there might be some memory issues at play,
Okay.
some
I don't know
control.
that. So here's what I'll say is immediately, if she told me she was going to interview several agents, okay. Okay, I know I've got at least some part of analytical in there. All
Uh-huh.
right. When
Okay.
she starts acting like she's a real estate agent, now I know she's a controller. So when I go to that meeting, I'm going with everything I've got. I'm going ready, prepared to make a listing presentation. I'm going ready, and I'm going to give her some time because I know I'm going to give her more than an hour because I know she's going to ask a lot of questions. I know she's probably going to put a lot of opinions in. So I'm going to be prepared to be able to answer those questions. I'm going to respect that. I'm going to know that power respects power. So, one of the things, and it's just the truth, is that if you knew it, I tell people this all the time is that if you knew how to have a great marriage, I wouldn't be here.
Okay.
So let me do what I do and let me help you and let me show you why, not everybody's going to love everything about your house. Okay. You have a dog. Not everybody loves dogs. So, the fact that you might have, an outdoor dog shower and doggy doors all over your house, some people might see that as a detriment. Now, do you understand why people wouldn't like dogs? No, because you like dogs, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's not a matter of, her questions are, she's very like, okay, she likes to be in control, like my way is right because she can't see why someone wouldn't exactly love her house. Okay. So I love Casey's house, but I wouldn't have a multicolored heart in my house because it's not appropriate with my decor. Yeah, I guess we could make it fit someplace, but it wouldn't be exactly this wouldn't fit with what my wife has in the house. Does that make sense? By the way,
Yes.
I don't decorate houses.
If
I put
you
in
did have
generators and stuff.
one, I would come visit more often.
Oh, you didn't like the aspen trees in the guest room?
Oh no, those were good. Those were good. They fit
Okay.
the theme.
Okay. Anyways, um, you'll come visit no matter what. Stop. It's like putting contingencies on your visits.
I know.
Um, so, just notice what are some of the things you're noticing is how I also pay attention to details. Okay. So how do I know that Betty likes dogs?
Because I have a little dog on
We say it again, Debbie.
A picture in her screen thing.
Yeah, she's got a dog over there. I also know that she's pretty put together and she's got pretty good taste. Okay. Because of, she's not overcluttered there. She's got some kind of new stuff and it's very well placed. And, her books aren't all formal. They're kind of like mine, they're kind of mixed around. So Betty's got some pretty good taste at the same time. So she's got some class and she loves her dog. Did I hit it, Betty?
Yes.
Yeah. Because she's concerned, she probably operates a little more supporter, okay, than she does. But I also get that she's got a real creative sense. All
Yes.
right, so that's
You're
just my
right.
take on Betty. So Betty, I would just say is that with this woman is give her what she asked for. Questions like I think that a lot of times, especially by the way, you're also dealing with something that I'm not going to get into today, but there's also the generational side of how people behave. Okay, so older people in their 80s and stuff have a different value system than younger people do. All right, so the way she looks at the world and the way she looks at things is a little bit different. They tend to be more I wouldn't say necessarily polite, but they tend to have more what I would call couth than younger people do. Okay, they don't just throw up everything and tell you about their entire lives. They kind of let you in as they let you in, those types of things.
Yeah.
So if
Okay.
I were you, the only thing I would have done different is I would have showed up and I would have been prepared for anything she threw at me because if she's analytical, she's going to throw it.
Okay.
And I think she's analytical. I think what you're dealing with for the most part is she operates analytical and crosses into controller.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very
By the way, when
much.
you get the handout, guys, it's really exciting. It's boring. Okay. It's written out, but read it, go through the processes, look at the keywords, look at this stuff. And here's the other thing is I would encourage people to play with it. Start looking at people and going, what makes them tick? Like what is it about them that really, if they're into fashion, if they're real fashionable, they tend to be more creative typically. Okay, so Casey and I click a lot because we have a lot of the same behavior style. Okay, she's A type and she moves into promoter type. Okay. Organization is not her strong suit and it's not mine either. Does she go over there sometimes? She does,
Why is
but
Selena snickering? Look at
okay,
her
so
organized books.
She's the
sorry.
yin to your yang.
I feel you, Selena, but that's why you're here. Cool. Who else? Who's got a question? Who's got a particular situation? I'd like to dive into some communication stuff too if we got time, but we're getting close. So
I have one. Um,
okay.
about three or 4 years ago, I had an open house and met a woman who lived across the street.
Hmm.
And we had a little conversation at the open house. She kept my flyer. 2 years later, she calls me and tells me she wants to list her house. So I go and meet with her. And I knew knew she was a little on the fragile side just from our initial conversation. And she was, I think, in her 70s, age wise. She had a beautiful home. Um, and she wanted to use me to list her house. She wasn't interviewing any other agents. So we had the conversation. I was prepared with everything for the listing presentation. And then it came time to discuss compensation. And I was at the time charging a certain percentage, which was pretty much industry norm at the time. And she leaned in and got closer to me. She goes, "Don't you think that's too much?" And it jarred me
Hmm.
because my first reaction was, what would you do if your boss told you you make too much money? That
Hmm.
was my first instinct, but I didn't say it. I didn't know how to respond to it. And I said, "Well, why would you think it's too much?" And then the conversation kind of went sideways, but
Hmm.
not in a super bad way, but it threw me off my game. I'd never been asked that before.
Okay, my favorite response to that is that and I kind of throw this one no matter what situation I'm in. And what I tell people is you know what? I'm not going to count your money and
Mhm.
you don't count mine. So my job is to make you the most amount of money possible out of this transaction. I get that's important to you. Okay, and I'm going to do my best to do that. And that means I'm going to put my effort in. I'm going to do things. I'm going to work as a professional to make sure that happens. Okay, I've already outlined all the services that I do, all the things that I'm going to pay for ahead of the deal, everything that I'm going to do before anything ever happens, I'm vested in you. Okay. Not to mention the fact that if you try to do this on your own, it's going to cost you money. In other words, you'll leave money on the table. So my fees are more than covered. And I find it best in a transaction that if you count your money and I count my money, we do a lot better. Now, I will also say this. I used to train people to do seminars and work with people. And I used to tell people, because of my style and the way I do things, I can get away with things that other people can't. So understanding your style and being prepared for that question, I think that's part of being a real estate agent. Is this really understanding how you respond to that? Okay. I wouldn't do a listing or a buyer for less than 3%. I wouldn't do it. And if the seller wasn't compensating that, I would either not show houses that had that, and I know that's a no-no. You're not supposed to do that in the rules of real estate, but I probably would shy away from those deals. Or I would tell them they would have to compensate me for the other percent. And the truth is that I'm worth that. I have people all the time ask me what my services cost. I'm not the cheapest guy on the planet, okay, but I do have results. And so the question is what's the goal here? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So if that if how much money I make bothers you, then I'm probably not a fit for you. Do we is that how many people like to want to be the best, be the thing for everyone? Okay. Like, okay. So if you go into Starbucks and ask them for a pumpkin spice latte right now, what's going to happen? You're not going to get a pumpkin spice latte. Why?
It's not available.
It's not available right now. If you want a 99-cent cup of coffee, where would they send you?
home.
They they don't do it. So what they're really good with is not operating from a place of scarcity, but operating from their own brand. So I would never, ever, 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 ever sacrifice my brand for somebody else's comfort. And it's okay to say no to people. You don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to make them wrong. So it's one of the things that I believe is probably one of the biggest challenges that causes conflict in relationships is people make people wrong in communication. Okay, so when we step, it's one of the things that I know that when my wife and I were struggling, make wrong was a huge part of the problem. Okay, and then make wrong went into keeping score. And so when we get into make wrong with our clients and we start keeping score with our clients, now we start creating conflict in our relationships. And it's why having intimacy, in other words, building a relationship off the top that's built on our personalities, that's built on our interactions, that's built on intimacy and harmony together, we can manage conflict without make wrong. And it actually makes our deal stronger. People have more trust in us. They believe in us more. They'll let us do our job and do what we do. If someone's not letting you do your job, it's because they don't trust you. It's that simple. And that's not always about you.
I love that. All right. Well, we are coming to the top of the hour. Clearly, we'll have the opportunity to have you back if you're willing to come back. Selena, will
I'll
you
come
do
back.
screen share on the QR code? So you can either grab the link that's in the chat, or you can grab your cell phone and turn the camera on, and a little QR code will pop up so that you can get the asset that Jeff was talking about today, which I believe is close to 13 pages long, if I'm correct.
I think it's 9,
Is it nine?
but
Okay.
it's 9.
Behavior and communication. So you'll be able to get that off the QR code. And, as a wrap, number one, to say that thank you guys for being here today, guys and gals, and investing in learning more, in improving your mindset and your skill set. And at the heart of so much of what we talked about today was curiosity, right? Curiosity, and that requires not being focused on ourselves, it requires being focused on someone else so that we can even begin to observe from if that's them walking in the front door to what they're wearing or the energy they walk in with at an open house to how an agent on the other side of a transaction answers the phone because they don't realize that you're in a transaction together. They feel like you're on one side and they're on the other. And then how to be able to pivot and manage your own energy to communicate effectively in those situations, down to when breakdowns happen. Sometimes people will look at breakdowns as a negative. I look at breakdowns as an opportunity to take things to the next level. So with every good breakdown, there's a good breakthrough if you know how to manage communication and effectively communicate in relationships. And so I would invite everyone that's on this call along with me, and I know Jeff, to be lifelong learners and students of taking your skills to the next level and being better and constantly refining them. And in my experience, people that are really committed and dedicated to doing that, the results follow. And from the world that we come from in personal development, it's awareness before change. It's not always be closing as ABC, it's awareness before change. And so those different levels of awareness open up entirely different possibilities and opportunities. And the truth is, everyone on this call can have more business than you want or can handle, and you can have results that blow your mind, dependent on how committed you are to mastering yourself and mastering your skills and being of service to other people. So, Jeff, thank you for who you are in my life and my world.
Thank you.
A trusted advisor and friend. For anyone that wants to connect with you, that QR code or that link will get them to you. And I know you're here to help and serve in the same way that everyone on this call is. So thank you for being who you are and making a contribution to our community today.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Love y'all.
Bye bye.